have bought so many books that just end up laying on the shelf, unfortunately, like where I have the intention of reading them, but I have ADD worse than I've ever had in my life at this point. There's just so many things in your life that really make someone who has ADD's life much more difficult. It's just Twitter and Facebook and email and every notification will popping through on your phone, Slack, et cetera, et cetera. And it's made it more difficult for me personally than ever to sit down and get any long work done, focused work. It's really tough. And reading's one of those things where I feel like I need to have peace and quiet and just be locked in a room and be able to read with nothing else on my mind. It's funny, we just took a cruise. My wife and I just celebrated our 15th anniversary, which is awesome. And we took a cruise, and I didn't even get the internet package. I really wanted to take a real vacation. And because we had no internet and we were on the cruise, it was an Alaskan cruise, so a couple of those days you're just sailing. And I read almost 2 full books in that week. I mean, I really enjoyed sitting down, got a couple of really great books that I was really into. Finished the first one and realized I needed a second one. I had to download the second one when we got to a port because I brought a physical book with me thinking I would have a hard time finishing one. And then lo and behold, I almost got through 2. But in my day-to-day life, there's just always, because the internet's there and you have a cell phone in your hand, there's always something else to go read. I find that I read a lot of things in short bursts, and reading an entire book has become difficult. But because it's 75 hard, it forced me to do this. And I read a couple of books during those 60 days. First of all, let me just mention just real quick. We did modify it. We didn't do 75 days. We did 60 days. Now, this was agreed to ahead of time because both of us had travel plans from the day that we decided to go ahead and do it. We kind of looked at our calendar moving out, and both of us had something to go do travel-wise that was going to make 75 hard impossible. So we did 60 days. So I just want to make that clear. At any rate, I got through these books. The first one was called The Psychology of Money. I've talked a little bit about it on the podcast already. The perfect book for something like 75 hard because I think it's something like 23 chapters. I don't have the book in front of me. I've actually given it away to a friend because I just think it's a great book for everyone out there to read. The book is basically broken up into 10 to 12, maybe 15-page snippets. Each chapter lives on its own. Together, cumulatively, it adds up to one overriding principle. But each chapter really sits on its own. You could go in and just read chapter 7 if you wanted to, for instance, and it would make perfect sense. But it made it perfect for something like doing 75 hard because I woke up in the morning, I got myself on a really great routine where I woke up first, made myself a cup of tea and some water, hydrated, and was reading the book, and then would go out for my workout. And, it was the perfect time. I could read those 10 pages in 10 to 15, sometimes 20 minutes. A couple of those chapters took a little bit longer because I would sit and reflect and think about them and read a small passage over again in some cases. But it was just perfect. It was perfect timing to get down, again, a cup of tea and a glass of water, get hydrated, get ready to go, get my morning workout in. And I really love that book. I highly recommend it. It's a book that I can wholeheartedly say that I wish someone had handed me 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, when I was in my early 20s. It really kind of gets into better money habits, better psychology around how you view your money, how you spend your money. I think it's a very easy trap to get into in the United States, especially if you live in the U.S., to want to live with impress the Joneses, as you will. And so have a nice car, have a bigger house, go on bigger trips, have a nicer watch, whatever it might be. And the reality is that stuff doesn't make you any happier. I've had to learn these lessons on my own the hard way. I think that in some cases, as a kid, you have to put your hand on the hot stove and burn yourself before you realize not to do it again, even though your parents might tell you this over and over again. Unfortunately, I didn't really have any good guidance from that perspective as a kid. And so all these things I learned the hard way and really wish that someone had handed me this book when I was younger. And even though I feel like I've learned a lot of these lessons, just reading the book really solidified things even more and has given me a couple more ideas. And so I highly recommend the book. There's very few books that I recommended this level. Traction is one of them. If you listen to the podcast, you know, book that kind of changed my life. The Psychology of Money would have been one of those books had I read it sooner in life, but certainly still had a great impact, and an impact in where I feel like I need to pay it forward by getting other people to read it is probably one of those things as well. So the thing that I took away more than anything in the book is that you constantly move the goalposts when it comes to money. And so, I think when I was young, the thought of having $1 million, for instance, was just like inconceivable to me. And I can remember thinking if I had $1 million, I could live the rest of my life and never have to work again. And it would just be like this amazing thing, like unobtainable thing to kind of dream about, be amazing. Next thing you know, later in life, got $1 million, and it's not enough. Now you have a goalpost of 5 million, and maybe when you get to that point, you move it to 10, move it to 25. It's never really enough, and so you keep on moving the goalpost, and so that really, I feel like I had kind of gotten to a point where I wasn't doing that anymore. But reading it and really comprehending it and thinking about it in the ways that the book put it really cemented it. And so I can tell you, like, wholeheartedly at this point that I have a number that my wife and I were marching to. And when we get there, it's game over. It just lights out, see ya. You move on to the next thing in life that won't be work. And it feels like that's relatively close because we're, marching towards this number that I think we can get to. And the goalpost will not be moved again. Like, that's something that I'm very confident in, where I know previously that got me in a lot of trouble because it's never enough with money. So great book. Thanks 75 Hard for forcing me to read that. The other one was this book, Essentialism, which I have here. I haven't given this one away. This book I found to be frustrating, honestly. Just from the perspective of, like, I hate books that are, what is this thing, 300 pages or so long. This one's 275. That could have been 10 pages, maybe 15 pages. I found myself struggling to get through this book every day. When I got up, I didn't want to really read the next chapter because I felt like I got it already. It's like, okay, like, I understand the point of this book. I agree with the point of the book, which is basically to, like, really focus on one thing and only focus on the things that are essential in the business instead of all the other things that we get off the beaten path on. I love the cover because it's like, a squiggly line that's like all over the place versus a straight line that gets you there much quicker. And so, concept of the book, A++, highly recommend. There's this thing called Blinkist, which you can read summaries of a book in 10 to 15 minutes. I think that this would have been a great blink versus the long read that it was, but I was already into it, and it was a part of my 75 Hard routine. So I did finish it. Again, I felt like it was painful getting to the end, but definitely a great message that I would recommend. All right, so the 10 pages of reading, again, I think it's a great habit. I've been reading more, significantly more, after doing 75 Hard than before I was in 75 Hard. But it's a habit I wish that I really could force myself to stick to every morning. I just find that sometimes I get up a little bit late and make excuses and end up not reading, or I'm reading just a bunch of useless crap on social media or something that I could spend my time doing better.